Hello, everybody on the live stream, or anyone that's watching. Hello, welcome.
Hello, all.
It's been crazy week. So it's been a crazy day, really. It was just like a day and a half, really, that this all started
Oh
happening.
man, this week has been beating me up,
Well, yeah, well,
but it's work and I need the hours, so you know. And they're
there you go. There's the weekly. I was waiting for it. The weekly. Oh, I forgot to close that tab. All right, I'm gonna go get some water, and then we will start up on the show, guys. I'll be right back. And for Bob. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Man, so sad. So sad. March Madness has been canceled.
it has.
Ah,
Battle of the Ages has not.
mm-mm. We will continue and fight. We don't give up. And we're going to parks still, so I mean, I'm going to the parks until they shut the gates in my face. That's pretty much what's happening here. Even if it becomes like insanely infectious and they're like, you can't come, it's like if you go to a park, you're pretty much guaranteed to get it. I'm gonna be like, take me.
Yeah,
I'll die on a coaster. What?
I'm in between.
Nah, I'm full throttle. Didn't.
I was until I started learning a little bit more about what's actually going on.
How so?
I just learning more about the virus and what the concerns are. I don't know if you've heard the term flattening the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that means?
Um, are you, you're talking about the disease, right?
What's that?
In terms of the disease,
Yeah.
yeah, isn't that like I think that's like one of the ways to I don't know, like stop it or whatever. I don't know.
No, what they're trying to do is spread it out. So the thing is it's more of a working like as if let's make the assumption that everybody is going to get coronavirus. The idea is don't have them all get it at the same time. Spread it out so that
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't overwhelm the healthcare system, which is a big concern right now.
Yeah, that's where like they have the graph and it like shows like the big hill and then it's like no, make it small.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I just didn't know that was the official name of it. I just I just don't think it's it's if it was serious, if I thought it was more serious than it is, then I would definitely say like I'll hold off on the theme parks. But I'm not gonna. This isn't that. I'm not that concerned with this. If it was like where
Yeah, but the
Ebola,
problem
where
is,
like Ebola had like a 90% death rate and stuff like that. If that had somehow made its way here and it was actually like killing everyone and stuff, I would be like, all right, I'm gonna hold off on that. But and I'm sure the parks would.
oh, yeah, I
Yeah. So.
mean, it's certainly a different. It's certainly different than that. The problem is like to you and me, it's not really that concerned to us personally. It's the possibility of spreading it onto other people that we should be concerned about.
Yeah, but I think that's always a concern with any disease. So I think it's kind of unfair to quarantine
Well,
us to our
yeah, but this,
houses.
I mean,
I just think it's unfair for a whole population to have to live in this kind of fear over something that
I certainly
won't affect a majority of the population.
I don't condone the panic. Like freaking I don't need to like hoard stuff. I just need to buy toilet paper. Like it's that, I'm out. Like I just need the normal like, I can't find any. Nobody has any.
It's insane.
It's ridiculous. Like why? Why are you stockpiling toilet paper? I don't understand this.
What is the obsession with toilet paper?
I don't know.
Like, hey, if the world ends, we're gonna need that to wipe our
It's
butts
not
with.
like coronavirus doesn't even cause diarrhea, so I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, when I first, I was like, is it causing bowel movements or what? What's going on?
I don't. I just don't know. I don't understand it.
We'll start off with this obviously with the podcast because that's, I mean, you can't not start off with the biggest news story and then you can go into whatever you said with Dick Knoble. You can be like, in terms of other saddening whatever, I don't know, sicknesses or mishealth or malnourishment.
Let's just start out. Let me start, and I'll say, James, it's coming for you, and then you can go in from there.
No, that's bad. I think it's better when I start out because my microphone's higher quality. Because when I tried to do your, no, I'm not being whatever ferocious or anything. I'm just saying like when I edited last time, it was really hard to hear your audio like over the music that was playing in. Like I had to turn it up. I had to amplify it really loud and.
Yeah, I did notice that.
So I think it's better if I start off and then you can come in.
Turn the mic down, or I mean, turn the music down.
It is down.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I was about to say it's literally fading out when you start talking, but it's still like.
What's that?
I think it's just better if we can just continue in that format. I'll just start off. This is episode 64, whatever, and then we can talk.
All right, whatever.
That can just be our thing, I guess. I know other podcasts do it differently, but that can just be our thing. We start off with what it is and whatever. I do like starting off like not starting off like stating the episode or whatever, but it's fine. Until we figure out another format, we can just do it like that. I don't know.
Or until I get another microphone.
Until I guess I could just be like, this week's been hectic. The coronavirus it's insane. I don't know. Insane.
Well, the week's been hectic otherwise for me too. Yeah.
But that on top of it.
Also trying to watch what's going on with the coronavirus is a whole other thing. But I'll tell you what, like the tone really changed, and I think like the last 2 days, like things have kind of got real.
Not even they haven't gotten real. Nothing's happened in like 2 days. It's just like all of a sudden, NCAA is like, we have to shut down everything. NBA is like, we have to shut down everything. NHL, and then everyone's like, oh my god, we're gonna die.
But see, so I think this is the thing. Well, who declared it a pandemic? Which
the World Health Organization.
Yeah, that's one big thing. But I think the bigger thing is that China, which is like ground zero right now, has actually like stemmed the growth substantially. And they've like the way they've done it is kind of borderline draconian, but it was effective. And I think some people were like paying attention to that of like it's kind of like you know what, we better start caring about this before we get forced into this disaster mode like Italy is right now. What are you reading?
I was reading about people, the coronavirus.
1,000 people have died from coronavirus in Italy alone.
But you just compare that to their population, and
Well,
that's.
no, yeah, but that's I mean that's still 1,000 people. You can't just like
But with the thing is that people are acting like it's surprising, like we knew this was gonna happen. We knew people were gonna die from a disease, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, people are dying," and it's like that's what I know. Like we knew this. It's not news. Like it's not. That's not even. That's 0.0000001% of their population. That's like not. That should. That's just not that much. I know
well, yeah,
the
but
United States just
also
got to quit.
it hasn't been in their country long.
What is China's death toll? Even that's not even that much. Let's look at China's death toll. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look just in China. China. 80,000. That's.
Uh,
It says 80,000.
80,000?
Yeah, good amount of people.
That's a substantial number.
That is, but that's also because they have terrible health conditions there. But that's still, compared to their population, that's still 0.00005% of their population that has died from coronavirus. It's just not that substantial, in my personal opinion. Which is not, I mean, I don't, obviously I'm not brushing this off. I don't think it's nothing, but I don't think it's as serious as it's being made to be. I mean, I would seriously think that the world is going to end in like 2 days, how people are responding. And
Oh,
that's not
I
even,
agree.
that's how
I
many,
agree with you.
that's how many total cases, that's how many total cases have been in China. Only 3,000 people have died in China. So, I mean, that's even less. Let's do,
I mean, that's still 3,000 people.
China lives in, that's 0.00002%. I mean, that's just like so small. In total deaths, there's only 4,000, it's not even 5,000 deaths worldwide. So 5,000, let's just say 5,000. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Divided by how many, our population is like 7.8 billion. It's so small that it has to be has to be times 10 to the negative seventh. It's just, not that serious, I don't think.
Um,
It's serious, but it's just not to the point where we need to shut down the entire world.
so over 100,000 global.
Out of the 80,000 people that have gotten it in China, 63,000 have recovered. I mean that's that's a good amount of people that they got it and recovered. That's majority, and more than majority. That's like 3/4 pretty much. More than that is
Yeah,
that is 3/4. 3/4 of people have recovered.
you got to
75
remember that this is still a growing.
in China. This is peaked in China kind of. I mean, this is like
Well, that's what no, that's what I was just saying. It's because of the draconian measures they've taken.
They haven't
They've
taken
been
any measures.
quarantining people like crazy.
China literally had no. They were so underprepared for this that that's why it spread so much. Now they're doing it, but now I mean,
See, you're not looking at all of the information. It's only recently that China started declining. They've been growing for a month, it's been over a month.
what are you talking about?
Like COVID-19 has been in China for a while,
I know.
and the infections keep growing, growing, growing. It's only recently that it stopped, and that is because they've all of a sudden just went crazy with doing quarantining and stuff.
So
That's the reason why it's been dropping.
but that doesn't mean that proves my point, kind of. That it's not that serious.
No, because what you're talking about is exactly what you're complaining about doing in the U.S.
It's dropping because they took no precautions for this in the first place. We have precautions now in the first place. We already know we know about the disease. We can stop. Yeah, I agree that some sporting events and stuff like that should be canceled, but you can't cancel like canceling school. I think is a little excessive. I get maybe teachers could be affected. We're not going to be affected. Amusement parks I don't think should be affected. I mean, it's just that stuff's overkill. I get if the people that are sick should be quarantined and stuff like that. I don't think you should close public events for this kind of stuff. Because I mean, there's what about other diseases? I mean, there's so many other deadly diseases that you could get it when you go out. I know corona.
Yeah, but it's not as like insanely contagious.
I don't. I just think it's just. Yeah, I agree with Bryce Keller, in the chat. Such an overreaction at this point, made even worse by the media. Ever wonder why big media news happens every election year? I agree. I 100% agree with that.
I'm not. Believe me, I'm not saying that there aren't people overreacting. There definitely are. Like, go to a grocery store right now, like that, you could see people overreacting. But I'm saying we need to not treat this so just nonchalantly.
I think this is.
It's not something to brush off and say it really isn't that big of a deal. I mean, I'm not afraid of getting coronavirus, but
I think it is probably on the same level of influenza, in my opinion. And I mean,
of what?
Influenza, the flu. I think it has a similar death rate, has a similar death toll. It's pretty much the same.
No, it is worse than the flu.
It's a little bit worse.
Death rate is worse.
It's a little bit. It is a little bit worse. I have the statistic, like an actual diagram of it. It's a little bit worse than the flu, but it's just not. But it's not like significantly worse. But look at this: diseases, deaths per day. I want people to see this. Look, I don't know if you guys can see this on the live stream. I can't really hold it up. And this is completely off topic, and we're gonna get to the podcast soon, guys. But this is important. I think it's just important. We're learning here. So the disease by death. It only has 56 per day. It only has 56 deaths. While yellow fever has 82, rabies has 162, measles has 247, meningitis has 329. I mean, typhoid has 396, whooping cough 400, and then the list goes on up to tuberculosis, which has 3,000 a day. So there's just way worse diseases out there that kill way more people. And I mean, I don't understand why this is being such panic. This is big thing is worldwide, and this is in China too. These statistics are from China. This is from like when it was rapidly occurring, like a couple of weeks ago in China. And
this is a new disease, and that's the thing. I think that's the concern is if this continues, where do we end up? I think that's the question it's worth asking.
I think it's gonna die off in the summer, like most viruses do, and 100% experts believe, like all the experts think that, and it'll return in the fall and this winter.
What experts?
I've read up on this. Okay. Scientists are saying that they think it's gonna die off in the summer, and then in the fall and winter it'll come back.
But it'll come back worse.
It'll come back probably worse, but by then we'll probably have some sort of more knowledge. I don't know if we won't have a virus. I mean, like a antidote, but we'll have more knowledge on it, and we'll be able to treat it better and prepare better for it. But yeah, I mean, it's not.
It is possible that it'll start to subside as it gets warmer, but it's not going to go away.
It'll die down
And
a lot.
if it
just like
does do
just like
that,
the
it's going to
flu.
get a lot worse when it comes back.
But by then we'll have. I mean, it takes about 6 to 8 months to find a cure for a virus like this, and I think by then we'll have worked our
Well,
way
yeah,
towards
but
one.
there's a lot of people saying that this is a different concern because there's a higher reinfection rate.
Yeah, there is a higher reinfection. That's true, but it doesn't.
That's the bigger.
But it's
I think
not
that's
again.
the
But the
bigger.
recovery rate is so high that you'll recover from that. You'll bounce back from that as well, and then we'll start to build immunity for these things for this disease. So.
Yeah, but it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be an impact.
And I know, and you just can't. You can't shut down the world for this. It's just you
No,
just can't.
it's a balancing act, and I think we're like, I don't know. You have to look at it from both sides.
All
I
I
think
care
that's the
about
most important
is that the
thing.
parks stay open. So
Well, I
sue
mean,
me, Bob, sue me. Okay, all right.
I want the parks to stay open too, but this is a day by day thing, though.
And
That's the
thing is,
thing. Right now,
the thing is,
I don't want to see the parks closed.
it was almost as if you're about to say if it's safe, but that's the thing is I don't think it's unsafe because there's no way. I mean, I'm gonna continue. I mean, school's gonna reopen in like a couple months, in a couple weeks. Everybody's gonna be doing public activities. I mean, going to the store, blah 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 blah, where you are around hundreds of people, and I don't think closing down a basketball game. I don't. That's not. The thing with this disease is that anybody can get it from one person. It doesn't matter, and then it transferred to hundreds of people. So it's not like closing down. It wasn't going to be transferred that much at the basketball games and stuff like that. It's going to get transferred at your house and with people that you meet and stuff like that. It transfers from everybody. It has nothing to do with the size of the crowd or anything like that, which is what people are confused about. It doesn't matter that it's 80,000 people if it's one person. It's gonna transfer over to a lot of people.
Well, but
regardless.
if you have one person infected in a larger crowd, then that's more people that person can infect.
Yes, but
You're right that most infections are happening with families.
It's gonna get.
That's absolutely true.
It's gonna spread. That's not gonna get stopped. I don't think. And
I agree, but that's where we come down to the flattening the curve thing. We need to slow its progression.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to by closing parks and closing events like.
I don't know. I can't say it right now. Right now, I say I agree with you. I don't think we're at a point where. Like, I think we're at a point where the parks should be saying,
this is good. This is a good topic for the podcast. We literally have a whole segment on this later, so we probably shouldn't share our whole thoughts.
That's true.
We're pretty much going to reiterate everything we just said. I feel like we always do that. This kind of sucks because that was actually really good. And now I feel like when we do it, we're going to be like, I've already said what we think, so it's going to be kind of like, yeah. Remember that we were talking about earlier? All right, so I'll start with Kennywood and say the old nightmare thing, and then you can go because you're going to be talking about this for like 20 minutes or something, and then I'll talk about everything else since you're going to probably talk.
Make sure you say the nightmare has ended.
All right.
That's a very important tagline. Actually, you should start with that. The nightmare has ended.
I'll say the nightmare has ended, Bob. Garfield's nightmare
has
will reopen this season as the old mill once again. All right. Okie dokie.
That's actually what Nick Paradise told us at Coaster Bash.
He did, really? I like him. He's cool.
I do, too.
Yeah. The article. But the thing is, I don't think... The only way I think Six Flags is going to close, Bryce, is if they're forced to by the government. I don't see them closing willingly. Unless it is mandated, like in Ohio, where they said like you can't have a group over 1,000 meeting. I don't think you're going to see parks close willingly. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. That's why I think Cedar Fair released their press release in SeaWorld because they're like, we can't close. We're not going to close. And unless like the actual government of that state makes us close, we're not going to close.
Yeah.
Which could happen. I don't think it's going to happen in Virginia, but it could happen in like Ohio. It's already happened. California.
Well, I mean, but the thing is we don't know. That's the problem. We don't know what's going to happen in 3 days from now.
Yeah. As long as we make it to Saturday and Sunday, I'll be good. And then next Saturday's King's Dominion opening. So
All right, are we gonna start?
Yeah, probably
We gonna
should.
start this podcast?
I feel like we do a podcast before the podcast.
We do. This is the pre-podcast, the precast.
All right, let's go. I could probably record half the stuff we do and then just.
That's what you should do. You should just turn it on, hit record, and
Whatever I like, I'll keep.
Pam. Pam texts me and she's like, "Are you ever gonna talk about coasters?"
Corona is very important to coasters right now.
It is.
So that is muy importante. They close.
She also says you're talking too quiet. I kind of think you're quiet too, but I
Talking
wasn't
too
going to
quiet?
say anything. But
I'm
now she
talking-
said something, so I'm
Talking too
saying it.
quiet. I'm talking too quiet.
What?
Am I talking too quiet?
You're talking too quiet.
I'm talking too quiet.
Yeah, you're talking too quiet.
All right.
All
I mean, I have it set to a certain point on my mic because I don't want it to be too high. I have the gain set to 30% because I don't want it to pick up too much. So that might be why it's coming through a little quietly. But that's because
You
it
need to
sounds
get
better. In post production, it sounds better.
You need to get an air traffic controller mic.
I probably
One
just
of
need,
those big headphones with the mic that goes out.
No, I'm not getting one.
That
of
way it
those guys.
stays in for the same distance in front of your mouth.
The quality is not good though. That's the thing with those mics. And I need to there are other mics I've considered getting, but this is a very nice mic actually. It's expensive and it's good quality, so
It definitely is a really good mic if you keep aimed towards it. I think that's your problem. You drift away from it and move.
nah.
That's why my audio sucks but remains consistent because it's not focused on one spot.
Yeah, but I've the last episodes or two I've realized that drifting away is a problem, so I've not done it as much. Also, with this mic, you're supposed to be like 6 inches away, so.
Yeah. Your video's froze on my end, by the way, just FYI.
That's all right, unless you care that much. Because it doesn't really matter to me. My video on the live stream will still come through.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so I think I might take a snippet of when we talk about Corona and post it on the YouTube channel because that's a pretty big topic, so people can hear our opinions on that. So when we do that, I'll do that. But other than that, we can get ready. Let's test audio.
Sure.
Coronavirus is not important. Testing. That was weird. All right, you can test your audio now.
Testing audio. This is a test. This is only a test. This is my normal this is only a testing message.
And that's not working. All right, now try testing again.
This is the second test because James doesn't know what he's doing, apparently. Just testing this again, and maybe James will figure out the buttons this time.
Yay! That worked.
Yay!
All right, let's get to business. I'm going to start off and say, Bob, this is the end of the world as we know it, as REM once stated. I think that'd be good. And then I'll be like, welcome to Coaster Talk.
That's a good Orion reference.
True. What is the actual Orion tagline?
That was what the teaser campaign was all about. The end of the world as we know it.
Is that actually what they said though?
Yeah, that was the whole teaser campaign.
I know it was like around that, but was that like word for word what they said?
Yes.
All right, let me see. A meteor storm that will continue for generations. But there is hope. There is a new planet, the Orion constellation. It doesn't say anything about the end of the world as we know it.
It was the teasers, like the posters that were going up in the park.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, Man, I cannot wait
Because
for.
everybody thought it was an REM. It was a REM reference.
It's the end of the world as we know it. I'm gonna be so mad if they cancel Media Day for that.
Yeah, that's gonna stuck.
I have a feeling.
Orion Rising.
I have a feeling they won't, but if they do, I'm gonna be very disappointed because it's right after the ban is uplifted. So I feel like they're gonna still have it. But all right, you ready?
Hold on 1 second.
1.
Get this right. Shut up. Yeah, it was a TEOTWAWKI.
Can you translate that into English, please?
The end of the world as we know it.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
I'll tell you one thing. We're growing in followers on Instagram. It's crazy. We went from like steadily being at like 1,800 followers. Now we're up to, I mean, not 1,800. I don't even know, 1,180, and now we're at 1,220 in like 1 week. It's kind of crazy. That's like the biggest jump in followers I've had, and it keeps going up. And I'm kind of scared that it's just gonna drop. Like somehow I'm getting like bot followers or something, and all of a sudden it's just gonna drop someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gained 20 followers in 1 week. That's not usually how we roll. Kosher Talk.
I sent you a link of the picture. Well, an article with the picture.
Oh my gosh, I know what you're gonna say, Bob. This is what we're gonna do. Oh yeah, I remember that. So I'm gonna say it's the end of the world as we know it, Bob, and you're gonna say, and I feel fine. Now that's gonna be great. All right.
Yep, that works. Or and then we can. I'll say, and I feel fine, and then we can go into it like reference if you're a glass half full kind of person. Orion's opening. Or glass half empty. Coronavirus is coming.
All right, here we go. It is the end of the world as we know it, Bob.
And I feel fine.
Yes. If you're a half, well, are you gonna say that or me? I thought you were gonna say it, but then
It doesn't matter. If you want me to, I can. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
And, well, I'll say if you're a glass half full kind of guy, Orion's opening soon, and then you can say if you're
Okay.
a glass half empty
and
kind of guy.
And if you're not that kind of guy, then you're probably freaking out about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll do the glass half full, and then you can say the half empty coronavirus or whatever you want.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
I started that wrong. 1 second. All right. 3, 2, 1. It is the end of the world as we know it, Bob.
And I feel fine.
Yes.
If you're a glass half full kind of person, Orion is opening soon.
And if you're not, then you're probably freaking out about the coronavirus right now.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty hectic week. I mean, in the matter of days, it's gone from, just a small little, the coronavirus, that's happening, and now it is like an epidemic, and it's crazy. And I mean, it's really evolved pretty quickly over the course of these couple of days. We'll talk more about that later on in the show, though, and talk about how that might affect the theme park world. First, we're going to start off with the more happy and positive side of things, because I know a lot of you are probably this is your one moment of relaxation to relax, listen to some Kosher Talk. So we're not going to get straight into the crazy stuff that's happening out there in the world. But let's first start off with a segment we call Attraction News. Whew, that's good. That's good.
We forgot about
Dick Knoebel.
Knoebel.
Yep. Should we can restart that then. You want to restart?
Um, yeah, I think so because I think that's pretty important to say.
All right. It is the end of the world as we know it, Bob.
And I feel fine because I'm a glass half full kind of guy, and that means Orion's coming.
And if you're not a half glass, if you're looking at it half empty, then you're seeing that the coronavirus is out there, and it's could very well be affecting theme park travels and life in general.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah, just a little bit.
In amongst the coronavirus, aside from that, I think it's kind of important. We want to send our best wishes to the Knoble family and to Dick Knoble as he recovers. It was announced at Coaster Bash last weekend that while Dick was in Mexico, he actually had a stroke. Therefore, he wasn't able to attend Coaster Bash, but Rick came and he actually called his dad on the phone and so Dick was able to actually talk to us for a few minutes. Sounds like he's doing well. He's
Good.
recovering.
That's good.
And as Rick says, we have him at least for another season. So our best wishes to the Knoble family and our thoughts to Dick, especially as he recovers.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week, and that's just terrible news. Even on top of that, on top of everything else that's happening.
Yeah, certainly.
So, despite the coronavirus, we're going to start off like normal. And so we will get into the coronavirus later on in the show and talk about how that might affect theme parks and everything like that. But we're going to start off with the positive things that's going on in the industry in the segment we call Attraction News.
Da, 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 da. I can't. Every time I hear that with Attraction News, it just pops into my head.
I love it. All right. So the nightmare is over. All right, you ready?
The nightmare has ended.
All right. The nightmare has ended. Kennywood has announced that Kennywood has confirmed that the former Garfield's Nightmare ride will reopen this season as the Old Mill once again. Kennywood has confirmed that the attraction will be returned to its previous Western theme it previously had, but it's going to be updated to include new twists for a new generation of fans to enjoy. So this has been on topic for a long time with Kennywood fans that Garfield's Nightmare needed revamping, and I don't know if it was always talked about that they wanted Old Mill to return in the same way it had previously been, but that is what the park has decided to do, and I'm happy because Garfield's Nightmare was okay, it was pretty fun, but I've yet to experience how it was like as it was like Old Mill, so I would definitely would be very excited to get up there and check that out because I've heard that was a great attraction when it was Old Mill.
As a person who was born and raised in the Pittsburgh area, I am proud to say that I never rode Garfield's Nightmare.
Yay!
And it went the whole way, and I never actually got in that ride.
Were you ever planning on it, or was this a definite thing that you were gonna like almost go on strike?
It was. I don't want to say that I was
subconscious?
100% like I was never going to ride it, but I absolutely had no interest in riding it, and I was kind of adverse to it. Like I really hated the fact that ride was. It annoyed me.
So it wasn't
Given the right
this wasn't a
circumstances, I
subconscious.
might have rode it, but
This wasn't a subconscious decision. This was a pretty blatant. I don't want to ride this thing.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, the right conditions could have arose, and I may have rode it, but I really didn't want to. I wasn't interested, and I felt like it didn't belong.
I thought it was an all right ride. It was pretty fun. It made sense. It was appealing to a certain group of kids. I mean, that enjoyed the comics. But I think it is definitely with Kennywood. It's going for that traditional park feel. So it did feel a little bit outplaced. So this makes a lot more sense. and I'm happy for the park because this seems like it's making a lot of people happy. And yeah, but the only thing with Kennywood is I still have yet to see. I don't know what direction they're going in because with Steelers country and all that, it really feels like that just doesn't really fit with their older theme, their old theme park charm. So I don't know. Maybe
Well,
I don't know if they're going to try to return to their older roots now that they're done with the Steelers country edition, or if they're going to continue modernizing this park. But we have yet. We'll see. I guess.
so last weekend I was at Coaster Bash, and we've talked about Palace Entertainment quite a few times in the last few months on this podcast. And I've been concerned.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, there's something going on, and it's kind of hard to describe what it is. It's just something's happening. But at Coaster Bash, John Rowley, the new COO, was actually there, and this was actually one of his first discussions after taking the position with Palace Entertainment.
Yeah.
And Nick Paradise of Kennywood was up first, and when he did his question and answer, somebody actually asked they asked a question, but it was more of a complaint, saying like people that had the PA pass, which gave people access to all of the parks in Pennsylvania that Parkways and Palace owns, they couldn't get any discounts in the park. They bought the best season pass they can, and as a result, they were punished by not getting any in-park discounts.
Yeah,
Later, when John Rowley got up, he said, "It'll be fixed." Hands down, like as he was standing up, he said, "I want to tell you right now, I just took the reins, but now that you brought this to my attention, this will be fixed. One way or another, we're going to find a way to get you in-park discounts." Like he was, it almost seemed like he was kind of really ticked off that the parks were kind of in this position.
Yeah.
And he talked a lot about the direction, and I was kind of put at ease a little bit.
Almost like now that I'm here, it's all right. I have this under control.
Yeah,
I'm not going to let this go out of hand. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't. I want to say like I still have some reservations, but he specifically addressed these things, like saying, he really recognizes like the Kennywood and the lake compounds and what the parks have. And somebody even directly asked him the question, do you what are your views on IP related attractions? And he said he left room for there being IP attractions. He said it can make sense at times, but he said there's certainly something to be said for attractions that don't have an attached IP or have their own IP, as the old mill was kind of a Kennywood IP.
Yeah.
It's like an original thing.
An original idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of you could kind of see in a sense that I think him being there and being amongst the enthusiasts kind of opened his eyes to some things. And it really did kind of put me a little more at ease at, the park is, or the chain is really going to be focusing more towards what they should be. But it'll be interesting to see how it progresses. But
yeah.
I mean, he really did kind of impress me.
That is awesome. That's great.
And the really cool news is Idlewild.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big list and kind of an exciting list, I think.
Get ready. Here we go.
So I'm going to go through these for this first section really quick. This year, they announced to us these points, which is really a lot of work. This is a lot going on. They're going to introduce Story Time with O the Owl, which is going to be a new kids attraction. It's not a ride, but it'll be a story time. They said that they're going to be doing paint everywhere.
Is it an experience, or is it like a walk around attraction?
It seemed to be more I guess there are I don't know. You could kind of say maybe like a show / more interactive, where it's like a small group It's
right.
more like they didn't go really into detail. They said it's similar to some of the other attractions, but it's going to be introducing a new character from the Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood.
All
And it's
right.
really hard for me to say "Oh the Owl" because it's always "X the Owl" for me, but that's because I'm old.
Yeah.
The Roundup is returning this year. It's got new paint. It's been completely refurbished after the flood that happened. I think it was 2 years ago.
That's good.
Uh,
Good news.
every single this is actually a palace thing. The restrooms are being rehabbed across the entire park in phases throughout this year. So by the end of the year, every restroom, did I say, yeah, every restroom will be refurbished by the end of the year.
Kennywood
And
would
this is what's that?
Kennywood would benefit from that as well.
Well, so that's actually Kennywood actually did make the same announcement,
All
and
right, that's
this
good.
was kind of Palace actually made the same announcement. So this is kind of a Palace thing that they're like they really want to focus on rehabbing restrooms, and it seems like Palace has kind of taken an interest in the little things that kind of have seemed to be forgotten.
Yeah, that's good too.
So that's a really good thing because you know
It's
you
easy to
don't think of
overlook.
restroom.
Yeah, it's easy to
What's
overlook.
that?
It's easy to overlook these small things like this.
It is, but they make a difference. By the end of the day, you're like,
I don't want to go in
you
that
know,
gross restroom. I'm
yeah,
done with this park.
yeah,
I'm fed up. I'm fed
exactly.
up. That's it. You know.
Well, good news if you have to deal with one of the old restrooms before it's rehabbed, and you're an adult, you can now get frozen drinks at a cabana stand with alcohol in them.
Yeah.
So this is probably something parents really
Oh, they're
are gonna
excited. They're
like.
thrilled.
They're probably really thrilled about this one. But that's going to be a new thing for Idlewild. They traditionally only served alcohol. They had an alcohol license, but only used it for like a 2 week event or something like that, or some special events. But this is going to be a full time thing. They also said they're going to be doing an entirely new signage program. So all of the signs are going to have a different format, but are going to be easier to understand and easier to direct and figure out where you're going
Yeah.
without having to constantly look at the park map like you're a guest in Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah, because some of these parks have some confusing pathways and twists and turns. So
Yeah,
it's
and
really
Idlewild
important.
is big.
It's really important to make sure people know where they're going.
Yeah, signs get overlooked a lot,
Yeah,
and
they're
you don't
really
really
important.
pay attention to them until you need them.
Yeah, you don't pay attention to them until you're out of your home park and you're like, all right, where am I going? Wait a
Exactly.
second. I drove. I paid for the hotel. I got the rental car, but now I'm at the park and I don't know where I'm. I have
And I
no
can't
idea where
figure
I
out where
am.
I'm at.
I have no idea where I am. So
Exactly. And the last little thing for this year is the Alligator Swamp and Jumpin' Jungle, which was they were these rafts that you pulled yourself across with a rope. Those are going to be removed and replaced by radio controlled boats. Not a big deal, but something you might want to know if you're taking your kids and they want to go ride on Alligator Swamp. It won't be there. So they also announced these couple things that are going to be happening in 2021 and 2022. So it'll happen either or throughout both of them. Their food stands are going to be rebranded, and it didn't sound like they were necessarily doing IP, but more of just kind of like refreshing the way things fit in and maybe having new food products. They're actually bringing new food products this year too. They're going to begin a yearly restoration process on the historic carousel, which is a big deal to Idlewild. They have a pretty old one, and
And I think
a
if you're an amusement
gorgeous.
park enthusiast, that should be important to you. I know this is more of we say we're a coaster podcast, but
Right.
the kind of amusement theme park enthusiasts all fall into that. So that's really important to amusement enthusiasts as well.
Yeah, and to focus more on the coaster enthusiasts, the other thing they said, which is a big deal,
Yeah.
is they're going to do upgrades and adjustments to roller coaster, because nobody likes the wings.
Oh God, yeah. No.
And if you've seen the trains that they put on roller coaster after the incident that occurred on it when the child got off the ride before he should have. Um, these trains look horrendous.
They look
Um,
ugly. I've heard they provide awful ride experiences.
yeah, it's not good.
They look like Mickey Mouse ears almost. It's kind of funny how they show in the trailer.
It's yeah.
It's almost like they're
Yep.
maybe it's a Disney. Maybe they have a deal with Disney, and they're like, yeah, we can't do that. We can't take it off because we kind of made a deal with them to promote their brand. Kind of.
They just look horrible. Well, the reason why they were put on there is because after they made the modification, they had to go through the clearance testing again, and because it was going through the woods on a coaster that was grandfathered in on the clearance testing, the only way they could pass the new clearance testing was to reduce your reach.
Yeah.
And that's what the wings are there for, and it's just horrible. So he said they're looking into ways of getting rid of that, also getting rid of the weight limit. You could kind of sense the frustration. You know, I don't think he was very pleased with the way Roller Coaster came out, and I really hope they get it back to more to what it used to be.
It's former glory, yeah.
Yeah, because it was a fun ride for little kids. It really was. And then in 2021, they also announced they will be getting a brand new kiddie ride. That is, and this is big for Idlewild. This kiddie ride will also be adult friendly, so
that's good.
Parents can ride with their kids, which right now is a big problem at Idlewild.
Yeah, it is. That's what you want to have, a shared experience.
Yeah, and that's the problem, and it's actually their height requirements are like they're really weird because you have to, like, they have these kiddie rides that you have to be with somebody else that's taller if you're a certain height, but the ride is too small to fit an adult. So the only way you can ride is if you have like a slightly older brother or sister that can take you on the ride. It's bizarre. So this will be a big deal.
Something they can look into as well is changing those height requirements, maybe.
Yeah, I see.
Altering them, so maybe not changing them completely, but altering them somewhat.
Well, the thing is a lot of those height requirements came in after the incident on Roller Coaster. So I don't know if this is insurance related or
could be.
I don't think it's state related. Maybe it's just knee jerk reaction. I don't know what it is. But yeah, it would be nice if they did something. But it sounds like in 2022 they're going to do something big, like real big.
RMC Giga.
I don't know about that.
How big we talking here?
that would be horrible for Idlewild. Yeah. I mean, good but horrible.
In 2022, coming to the family park in Pennsylvania, the tallest RMC coaster ever created. I mean, that would be.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
I think it'd be on par. I think it'd be pretty much on par with Idaho.
One, so.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be pretty much on par with the Idaho Wild Water West getting it.
Yeah. Oh man. So this really they showed a short video, like kind of like a teaser video of everything, and Jeff Crawshore was in the video, and whenever they got to the point that said brand new, or what was it? It was the point was large plot of land with so many possibilities, and it was a large plot of land. I mean, a quite sizable plot of land that they were showing on this video. It really, really did have roller coaster vibes. As to what, that's anybody's guess.
I'm definitely.
I wouldn't be surprised to see an SNS.
Definitely family coaster, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for this park, this would have to be family. But, I mean, as we learned in 2018, family coasters now aren't just for kids.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a lot of family coasters that are extremely thrilling rides that are a lot of fun for adults. I wouldn't mind
seeing something along the lines of, like, Invader, like a GCI Woody. I know they have a wooden coaster there, roller coaster, so they probably wouldn't go for that because they already kind of have that somewhat with the roller coaster. But
I don't think...
Dragonfly at Dollywood would be cool, like a Vekoma new gen.
So I thought about that. Their sister park has Merlin's Mayhem.
Yeah, they could. I wouldn't be surprised.
But I don't know if that's too close together. I don't know. That's a possibility. I thought. I
think that's definitely.
I really think a Gravity Group might fit this park really well.
That would be
because gravity groups can have really, really low height requirements. And I think that's a big deal. And that's what Idlewild needs right now is something big and thrilling with a really low height requirement.
maybe a Zaire multi-launch.
All right. I'm game. The interesting thing about this is completely separate from this new major attraction. They also said there's also, that means in addition of, not including, but in addition of this possible coaster, there is a new mystery major edition happening. So it sounds like sounds like Palace might be really looking at Idlewild and saying, "Yeah, we need to do something here," and they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, there's a lot of substance to take in, and that's a lot of stuff that they announce. So
this is a lot. This is probably more than I've like. Granted, not all of these things are necessarily big in their own right, but this is a lot of work and a lot of effort.
More stuff than what's coming to King's Dominion.
Oh my God.
Just imagine if King's Dominion did half of these things.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Anything else happened down at Coaster Bash?
What's that?
Anything else happened down at Coaster Bash?
There were a couple announcements, a couple other announcements that were, I mean, a lot happened. It's always a fun event, but a couple notable announcements. Waldameer, I think this was announced previously, but they kind of they announced a little bit ago they were getting an SBF Visa spinner as well as a Rally Racer water slide complex. They talked about that. Here's the interesting thing about their SBF Visa. If you've been on an SBF Visa spinner, you probably have noted that the loading station is pretty crappy and very small and definitely not friendly for people that have any kind of disability. So Waldameer bought this ride not knowing that they had to specifically request an ADA compliant loading station. So they got the ride and they took the loading station off and threw it away. And
that's garbage.
They built their own loading station that will be wheelchair friendly. It'll be it looks really, really cool. They showed some pictures of it. And the interesting thing was whenever they were talking to the to SBF Visa about this, they actually said, whenever you're done with it, can you send us pictures and some information on it so we can maybe incorporate it into our future rides? So that's kind of interesting.
That is great.
Six Flags Over Georgia, they weren't there, but PTC was there, and they announced that the Great American Scream Machine at Six Flags Over Georgia are brand new PTC trains. These are custom built, like they're just built brand new for them. They're not refurbs. They're ground up brand new trains. So that's interesting news. And the other interesting thing that was brought up, IRM, which is International Rides Management, was there, and they talked about Lakemont Park and where some of the rides went. Nothing really major to report there. They basically went to different ride sales organizations. A lot of those rides might be showing up. They did say that they expect that the Chance Toboggan that Lakemont had will show up somewhere else, but as of right now, they don't know where. But the other interesting thing they said was, well, this was actually a question. This question came up to a lot of different people that were speaking. A lot of people were asking different people what their thoughts on Indiana Beach were, and could you please buy it? Whenever somebody asked IRM, they actually said that the park right now is still entirely intact, and they did say that that Apex Park Group has been in contact with them. But I don't know this, I don't know that this gives me any real hope, but at least it does kind of say that, okay, there's another vendor out there that might be kind of looking for a buyer to find it Um, I don't know. At some point, we're gonna have to pull the Band-Aid off and say Indiana Beach is no more. But here's something else that's there.
There's always hope.
Yeah, yeah. Until that park's not intact anymore, you can hope.
Hmm.
And I guess that's the news is that as of last weekend, Indiana Beach was still completely intact.
That's awesome. That's really great.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we will. And speaking of exciting new things coming, well, that wasn't really exciting or new things coming. Actually, we're talking about the exact opposite of that. So let me say that again. Speaking of the exact opposite of a park closing and bad things happening, something good is happening down in Florida as the soon-to-be RMC hybrid Iron Gwazi has been started testing, which leads people to think that this could very well be opening in the next week or two. I don't know how Busch Gardens Tampa is going to respond to all the things happening right now with the virus and everything like that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if everything plans out right, I think we could very well see this be opening very soon. So that's fantastic. It looks great. I don't know if you've seen the testing footage, but man, it is hauling. It looks great. I'm really excited for it.
This is a coaster I want to be more excited for, but it's not that I'm not excited for it because it's not. It's that there's so much other cool stuff going on around closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like I kind of feel like Iron Gwazi gets lost in all of my excitement for other things like Pantheon.
Cough, cough, Pantheon. Yeah.
So excited for Pantheon.
That is the highlight of this year, definitely. We're biased. We're biased, but
yeah.
But yes.
And I'll be honest with you. After East Coaster, I'm really excited for Candemonium. Like
same. Seeing it in person and stuff was great, and it just looked
really
so much larger.
Like, yeah, I was like, really when that was announced, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. It'll be fun to ride whenever, whatever. But after seeing it in person, man, I'm excited for that ride. It looks good. Orion as well. Orion just like,
oh my gosh, yes.
And I'm not a person to get excited about B&Ms like this. So I don't know.
I don't know. Might just be the off-season blues getting to you.
That could be too, but that's why it's like Iron Gwazi just seems to be lost in all of this. But I don't know. Not that it's not great. I think it's going to be exciting and a great ride. But
oh yeah, for sure. Dollywood also is going to be releasing some information on their upcoming attraction or their upcoming attractions or whatever kind of announcement they're going to be making this weekend. That's exciting stuff because that was, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, we talked about that on the show. That's going to be their biggest investment. Breaking news?
They won't be making announcements this weekend.
Did they close?
No, they delayed that. They delayed the media day and the announcements, I believe, because of the coronavirus.
Okay. So the announcement.
They are planning on opening the park, but I believe the media event and all of that stuff has been postponed.
All right, so they do not make their announcement this weekend. However, Dollywood still did some things over this course of this off season, and something that no one really heard about until now. It's just been announced that Thunderhead got retracked over the off season. So 800 feet got retracked. So that doesn't seem like a substantial amount. However, last off season, 700 feet got retracked. So now over half of the ride's 3,230 feet of track has been replaced. The park will continue to work on that for the next few years until it's completely done. So that's awesome. That ride is something.
This is how you do Woodies.
Yes, exactly. And when I rode this back in like 2017, it was definitely a good GCI. I loved it. It was fun, but it definitely needed some work. It was a little rough, I would say, in the back. I enjoyed it in the front a lot, but in the back I was like, it's a little that needs some work. So to see that they're maintaining it and it's going to be running smoothly here soon is great. And yes, I agree. That's how you do wooden coasters.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it was last episode, I said, in some ways, like, it's great to hear the news of Woody's getting retracked, but it shouldn't be news. That should just be maintenance. That should be what happens.
Mm-hmm. And if it was, it wouldn't be news, but sadly it is. And
yeah,
with Thunderhead, I could understand because it's not as old of some of the other wooden coasters that should be getting retracked every year, but even so, it should get some attention every once in a while. So it is sad to see that Dollywood's not going to make their announcement though, because that was a pretty pretty spectacular thing. We were really looking forward to that on this
Yeah,
podcast.
I
But
was looking forward to it. Maybe I see. This is the thing. They didn't specifically say they're not going to make announcements, but I can't see them making announcements without the media there.
yeah,
So, you
yeah,
know, if you put one and one
I agree.
together, that kind of makes me think the announcements aren't going to happen this weekend if the media event is postponed. So we'll have to wait and see.
But my question is, when do they postpone this to? I mean, you can't release media information for a theme park. I mean, this is the prime season to do that. It's in March because this is the beginning.
Uh,
So now that that's not going to happen, I mean, looking at April, then it's starting to get a little too late to start announcing stuff. So I
let
don't
me
know.
see. Let me pull up the article here.
We shall see with Dollywood though. But yeah,
And I'm gonna get an advertisement. And what? All right, let me try on the computer.
I can just edit all this out, so this is all right. This will be a lot shorter of a pause on the actual podcast, and anyone that's going to listen.
Yes, sorry. Technology. Oh my God. What happened? Walt Disney World just announced they are closed through the end of March.
Yeah, I know.
No, that was Disneyland before.
I know.
Now Walt
Now it's
Disney
Florida.
World is.
I know. I told you that. I told you that earlier.
Disney World?
Yeah, in Florida. Okay, let me stop recording the podcast.
Oh, I thought you did stop.
Nope, I thought we were going to continue.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to look it up and then start again, but it's all right. I'll just have to edit all that out.
Well, we can still do that.
Yeah, but now it's going to be a bunch of random audio, and I'd rather just stop.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
My bad.
Unacceptable.
Are you gonna fire me?
You've been relieved of your duties.
Oh, they said Dolly Parton said the exciting economic news we plan to share doesn't seem appropriate based on what is going on.
Wait, let me.
Dollywood officials are consulting with medical experts and following CDC guidelines regarding how to decide or how to move forward.
Sounds like they might not even open at all.
What's that?
Sounds like they're considering maybe not even opening at all.
You're not by your mic. I can't hear you.
All right, let's just say that again, and I'll start the podcast, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
Okay.
All right. Let me see. 3. Right.
Now Walt Disney World is. Dolly Parton said the exciting.
No, don't.
I thought you did a countdown.
I know, and then I stopped.
Oh. Walt Disney World just announced they are closed through the end of March.
All right, I'm trying to edit your audio out. I don't need the Walt Disney World just got announced that they are closed till the end of March. We're going to talk about that on the coronavirus thing.
Sorry. Technology. Oh my God. What happened?
Technology. Oh my God. What happened?
I clicked on the Reddit link and all of a sudden there were like all of these lists of new closures. I was like, wait, let me try on the computer. All
right, let me see.
Advertisements. And I'm going to get an ad.
I'm trying to edit your audio real quick so that I don't have to do this later. And then I can just edit mine and then we'll be done with this. So, 1 second.
Let me see. Let me pull up the article here.
All right, that's pretty good for now. All right, you ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Dolly Parton said the exciting economic news we plan to share doesn't seem appropriate based on what is going on. According to a press release, Dollywood officials are consulting with medical experts and following CDC guidelines to decide how to move forward. So they haven't actually announced any times that they're going to reschedule right now.
Sounds like they might not even reopen, like open up this season. They don't know if they're going to do that.
Well, no, they did say that they are. Yeah, Dollywood will still open for season pass holders on Friday and the general public on Saturday as the park launches its 35th season.
All right.
But Dollywood and Covenant Health officials are taking precautions ahead of opening day.
All right, well, That's good to hear. At least the park will be open.
Yeah, as of right now.
As of right now, yeah, we don't know. And speaking of a large possibility of Dollywood being closed, a lot of parks may be closing down here soon due to the coronavirus. Let's talk about that in Coaster Craze. All right, you ready? I guess we can just hop right in.
Yep.
As we said earlier, Bob, at the very beginning of the show, it really does seem like it's almost the end of the world, as now the coronavirus has spread to the United States. It had been spread to the United States, but now it's become a major headliner in the United States, as multiple sports programs have ended their seasons, ended their tournaments. NHL, NCAA, NBA, MLS, all of these different organizations have closed down their seasons. Schools are closing. I'm out of school for 2 weeks. Theme parks, however, seem to want to stay open. I mean, it makes sense why they want to stay open. They want the money, but they seem to be. I thought for a while there, I was like, "There's no way they're going to stay open." But then now Cedar Fair and Six Flags have both made statements saying that they're going to stay open. I have a feeling that unless they're forced to be closed, unless there's a restriction placed on them, I have a feeling they're going to be staying open. I just don't see them willingly closing their gates. I can't envision that happening.
Yeah, this is something that's kind of a delicate issue, and I'm kind of torn on which side I stand on. This is not something that we should be just like brushing off as like it's nothing. It's no big deal. It is a big deal, but how big of a deal depends on so many different factors. And I think right now there is a huge panic going on, and I don't know that we're necessarily at that point.
I don't think it's justified. Yeah.
Yeah, at least not at this point.
No.
I definitely think I think that this is something that everybody needs to be thinking about, and you need to be taking precautions, and you need to be conscious about how your actions might affect things. If you're sick, if you have a fever, please don't go to a park.
No.
As a coaster enthusiast, that's hard for me to say because whether I'm sick or not, I want to go to a park.
Yeah.
But like, if you can't be trusted to make that decision, then that's why people are forced to close parks and prevent everybody from going.
Don't ruin. Don't just because you want one day at a theme park, you might ruin so many people's lives. Just wait. The theme parks aren't going to go anywhere. That's what I keep hearing. Theme parks. I mean, obviously, theme parks are not going to go anywhere. Once this moves on, we'll be fine, and we'll get to ride coasters again. So just if you feel bad, if you feel sick, don't ruin it for everyone else, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't. It's not worth risking it.
And
because
eventually, this will probably spread to the point where they'll have to close parks or something like that. I have a feeling. Or at least in the media, it'll get built up so much that parks will feel pressure to close down, or the government will actually mandate a closing. So I have a feeling they're going to end up some sort of closing, at least in some certain states, like maybe Ohio. Ohio's already done they're already doing like a 2-week closing of like events that are over the size of 1,000. So I don't know how that's going to affect.
It's actually over 100.
Over 100? Okay, over 100. Wow.
Yeah.
In Ohio, they've done that. So that very well could maybe affect Kings Island and Cedar Point. By the time that Cedar Point and Kings Island open, it'll have expired, but I don't know if they're gonna like renew it or whatever and replenish the order to say that group meetings can't continue or what. I have a feeling they might make it past there and slip it past there and be willing and get ready to open and stuff like that. But I don't know. We'll see with that. I just don't see parks willingly do this. Like I said, I think it's going to have to be forced upon them, which I think in a way, for me, I'm 100% fine with that because obviously young people aren't really affected by this too much, but that's a little bit of a selfish thought, but I think this is a little bit of overkill in my personal belief.
Well, I will say this.
At this point.
A few days ago, I was completely in your, like, word for word, I agreed with you completely. It wasn't until I started learning some more of the intricacies of how this virus functions and what who and what is at risk that I started kind of going, I might need to think about this a little more than I thought. I'm not worried if I get coronavirus. I'm more than likely going to be absolutely fine. I'm not worried about going through that. What worries me is passing it on to somebody else that might be more, more at risk of contracting the disease. And I think that's what my big concern is. And I think that's the thing we need to be cautious of is, yeah, you may not be worried about it. And I don't think you should be. Like, if you're a younger person, you're probably going to be fine. But, do you visit your parents, your grandparents, these are people that might be more affected by it. And that in turn could affect your life, So there's so many different aspects to think of this, and it's so hard. Like, we don't really know everything. It's rapidly changing, and it seems like we're learning more about it every day.
Yeah, the thing are that there are facts about this disease, but those facts are ever changing. Some of those facts,
right,
are politically motivated. Some of them aren't. It's just so hard to tell who's telling what and where's going where. It's just very complicated at this point to really understand fully what this disease is capable of, and I understand that. However, I just, at this point in time, I just don't see a reason for this major panic. But Disneyland and Disney World and also the Universal parks in Orlando and in California have announced that they're going to be closed for at least the next couple weeks. So that is that's foreboding of possibility of regional parks. But I really have a strong feeling that the reason that I knew the Disney parks were going to close. I knew, at least in California, because that was required. They state literally forced them to. Then I was like, really, Disney as a whole probably is going to close because they have properties in Japan and in Paris. So I feel like they might just say just do like a universal closing of all of their parks.
So actually, I just saw this now. They just announced that Disneyland Paris will be closed through the end of March.
Yep. All right. So all their universally closing all of their parks. I kind of figured that, and then Universal I figured would do the same. So I don't see this being a regional park thing. I still think regional parks. But the thing with Disney is, in Disney and Universal, this is not their sole profits don't come from the theme parks. Yes, they help. Yes, they are 100% a big factor in their revenue. But Disney and Universal will survive just fine without their parks being open for a little bit. They have nothing to worry about. But the thing with regional parks is that is their sole income is from the revenue of people coming into their parks, and I just don't see them willingly closing the gates unless this gets worse and unless the government says, "Guys, you got to close down because this is getting out of hand." I just don't see it because as long as people are willing to come into their parks and buy stuff and ride the rides and do everything, they're going to stay open, and I think a majority of people want them to stay open. I don't think anyone, I at least that I know of, everyone in the amusement park group chats, even older people, are saying like, don't close the park to do this, keep them open, let's see what happens, keep sanitation high, clean your rides, maintain them well, and let's see where this thing goes. That's a lot of response that I'm seeing from even older people that are more at risk from this.
That's something that concerns me. I mean, if you're like most normal people, you've received a ton of emails from every company imaginable explaining their response to coronavirus. It's kind of annoying in some ways, but in other ways, like, Target sent an email out saying, "Hey, look, this is what we do normally. Here's what we're doing different now." I get that. I had an online only bank send me a message saying, "Well, we're here for you." It's like, you don't have any physical presence.
Obviously,
shut up. Like,
I would be very disappointed if you weren't here for me.
Right? Yeah. Like,
hey, we're gonna close down the online store. Sorry, we just can't. We can't take a risk. We can't take that risk. It's just too serious.
Like, yeah. That stuff's annoying. But like, so here's the thing. There, in these emails I got for these physical places, they're basically explaining, look, here's what we're doing to try to maintain the sanitation level, doing more disinfecting. And this is something that's kind of this is the more important thing to look at, I think, is if you're going to be open, you need to really take some responsibility and up your standards. I was kind of a little bit disappointed with Cedar Fair's announcement, and like they said, "Oh, we plan on opening." Great, I'm all for that. I think right now that's a great plan. But their response also said, like, this is what we normally do. And it wasn't like, you know what, we're gonna like put some extra effort into it. It's like we think we're good. That's kind of the assumption I got. And I don't know that I kind of think maybe they should be doing some more, disinfecting or something like that to kind of keep some kind of control. But the big thing is Six Flags can't sweep a restaurant. Like, are they gonna really like?
I think
I hate
honestly,
to use that.
as much as I hate on Six Flags, and as much as I know that they don't keep a high quality normally, I have pretty high confidence that they're going to take this very seriously and actually be efficient in their cleaning and hygiene. And I know you're not saying that like you don't think they're going to attempt to do that and they just might fail, but
Right.
I just have a feeling that they're going to be very, 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 very thorough in this, and they're going to
I
be
really
very.
hope they do.
And
That's my biggest
if they're not,
concern.
they're going to have a big old lawsuit on their hands. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I think that's my concern is more about what you're doing rather than closing your park. Like, how are you going to maintain it? What's your plan? What's your plan of action? What do you do if you find out that somebody in your park has coronavirus? Like, if you somehow become aware of that, like what's your plan? How are you going to take like at that point, what do you do? Do you have a plan, or are you just got to like panic and people running around like chickens with their heads cut off, like we don't know what to do? um
I think it is.
like some of these things, I think this is the point we're at.
I believe they stated in their at least one of them said that if there is a confirmed case of coronavirus in the park, then they'll have a medical team awaiting, requests, and as soon as that's made aware, as soon as they're made aware of that, they will be quick to respond to it and get to them and get them out of the park. I'm pretty. I don't know if it was Six Flags. It was one of the parks actually stated that. I know Cedar Fair didn't, but I believe like Six Flags or SeaWorld, someone said like we are 100% like if we find there's a case in our park, we will escort them out of the park, ASAP. There's not going to be any hesitation there, you know. So I feel like they're pretty
Yeah,
prepared
it's
for
good to
that.
know that some people are thinking that, but like I think that's my point, is that's the point we're at. We need people being diligent about this, taking steps to kind of minimize what can happen. But right now, as of right now, Thursday night, March 12th, things could drastically change. But as of right now, I feel like parks can remain open.
I agree.
Be diligent about it. Be aware. If you're sick, don't go to the park. Please don't do like that. I think that's hugely important, because if Americans can be trusted to do that kind of thing, then we might still have, that freedom that, to make that decision ourselves.
Yeah. It's a really
And
sucky situation we're in right now, and sadly, we have no control over it. It's all up to fate or up to a higher power or whatever whatever you believe in,
yeah,
or if you believe in anything. I'm not gonna make any assumptions there, but whatever you feel is the best decision. I strongly suggest you make that. If you don't think you should be at a park, you think that there's a high risk, then don't come out. But I think at this point, like you said, I think it is fair and justified to keep the parks open as long as we are again able to trust the people that are going to be going there. That we're all going to be. If you're sick, we're not going to go. If we're fine and we feel great and we're up for it, then you can go. But I just think that this stuff happens a lot. There's a lot of diseases out there, a lot worse diseases out there as well, and so I understand that it makes sense. We want to be prepared. We don't know this disease. We have yet to find out a cure for it. We don't really understand it, how it works that much. But I just think it's a little overkill at this point. If it starts getting out of hand, then I will 100% understand where we're headed towards with closing the parks and closing all these
Right.
events.
And I think that's the other thing is it's important to monitor this situation and stay up. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody goes through these periods of let's not pay attention to the news. I think right now you should be. You should know what's going on with this virus so that you can make the best decisions for you and be diligent about how you might affect other people. I think that's the thing. It's I saw this tagline somewhere. It was plan, don't panic. And I think that's where we're at. I think you need to plan for this stuff. You need to be aware. You need to face the fact that you may end up with coronavirus. But don't panic. Don't
Always be one
don't
step
go
ahead.
into this downward spiral.
Always be one step ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Just be aware and see, I mean, by this weekend, things could drastically change and we'll reassess then. And, let's make decisions based on the day that we're at.
Well, yeah, and speaking, that'll be in future tense because, or actually in past tense because this weekend will have already occurred by the time this podcast drops. So,
That's true.
Hopefully everything went well, guys. God, that's kind of weird.
Hopefully everyone's still alive. They're
hopefully
good.
there's a podcast audience to listen to this. All right,
you got
well,
the Busch Gardens.
Yeah, hopefully we got there. Hopefully the coronavirus just disappeared. It was just gone. Someone just snapped and it was gone.
That would be amazing.
Oh,
that would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that were affected by the coronavirus, March Madness we talked about was one of those things, and that got canceled. March Madness is the round of 64. All the teams compete to figure out what the best basketball team in the country is. And that got completely canceled. That was very sad to a lot of sports fans. However, Battle of the Ages is not been canceled. The round of 64.
Oh, that's great.
To figure out the best coaster year of all time has not been canceled. We're continuing on. We're fighting. We're going to stay strong.
We're like the online bank.
Exactly. You have no fear of us going away. We have
no contact with our listeners.
So you don't have to worry about that. We actually have narrowed it down to just 4 coasters now. We're the final 4. And we actually we figured out the winners of the final 4 today. So we're going to talk about that on the break run. Yeah. God. Well, I think I planned out Battle of the Ages wrong, first of all. So that it was supposed to be finished this week, like today. This is supposed to be the last installation of it. So at least we got something good out of this, like, hey, at least we get to keep going with that a little bit. And if Busch Gardens cancels, it won't actually be the season, like I said. So it wouldn't be getting rid of the off-season blues anymore. It's just still the off-season.
That's true.
But I have a strong feeling that's not going to happen.
I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50.
I'm like 75-25.
I think Virginia might do something, though.
I just don't think it's going to be by this weekend. At least Saturday. I don't think Saturday's going to get canceled.
Here's the one interesting thing that may have an effect. Apparently there were, I don't know, it was more than one, but there are people at Quantico that are infected. And with Marines and Navy and stuff, like there's a lot with like Virginia Beach and Norfolk and stuff like that could be spread around.
I love it. Someone just created a poll in Amusement Park Enthusiast, which has over, 10,000 members. And it said, how is coronavirus going to affect your travel plans this year? And 300 people said not at all. And then only like 3 people said not planning on doing any trips now. And then, let's see how many people. 70 people said going to take advantage of small crowds and go wild. And then 100 people said we'll have to wait and see. But the majority of people are still saying, screw it, I'm going forward with it. And
see, like I said, I don't like that whole, well, I guess they didn't really even give you an option of, not yet, or,
We'll wait and see is kind of that.
I guess that it is, yeah.
All right, let's start with this. I got to get my poll up. All right, you ready?
Yep.
So we narrowed it down to just 4 years, Bob. Just 4 years. I mean, it's crazy to think a couple of weeks ago we were at 64 years. We now have the final 4, and we're ready to narrow it down to just 2 for the championship next week.
And I'm actually pretty satisfied.
Yeah, the results turned out pretty well.
I mean, 1989 isn't there, but
Your favorite year of all time, but 79 made it. 79 made it. So you got
Yeah.
10 years off, but you're almost there. Speaking of the Final Four, again, March Madness was canceled due to this. However, we're not canceling ours. I just want to reiterate that. And
'cause you don't come in contact with us.
you don't come in contact with us, exactly. And I want to keep this. This is positive. We're trying to stay positive on this. I know that as long as there's an epidemic out there, people are going to be freaking out. But let's keep it fun. And I want to state that I also messed this up completely. This was supposed to be the last week of the Battle of Ages because Busch Gardens was going to open this weekend, which it still is supposed to this weekend. And it was going to be like, hey, the off season's over, and now we're finishing up with the Battle of Ages. So it's like almost like the Battle of Ages concludes the off season. So we had something to look forward to all off season. And then when the off season
Except
ended,
James can't math.
I can't do the math correctly, and we're actually a week off. So next week will be the end of the week, and that'll be the championship. However, that doesn't
Just in time for the opening of King's Dominion,
exactly,
right?
yeah, exactly. So
That's
it's-
where we're going.
we're only a week off. It doesn't really matter much. That'd be funny if somehow we're like 3 weeks off. I don't know. Somehow that doesn't seem like it would add up, but that would be kind of funny. So the Final Four consisted of obviously 4 years. Those years were 1984, 1979, 2000, and 1997. So first we're going to do 1984 versus 1979. So 1984 had Big Bad Wolf of Busch Gardens Williamsburg, which is the suspended aero coaster. I had King Cobra at Kings Island, which was the first stand-up coaster in North America, I believe. And so that was a huge thing for that park and for the industry in general, because stand-up coasters would soon, really really heavily populate theme parks, and then they would die down again now, as we've seen in recent years. But they were a pretty big thing back then. Ultra Twister opened up that year, Tigger Coaster, and Whirlwind at Knoebels. So some pretty solid coasters opened up that year. However, it faced off against 1979, which consisted of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which was one of the biggest Disney attractions ever. Wilderness Run, which was the first intimate attraction ever. The Beast, which is the longest wooden coaster of all time, and it was such an innovative ride. Yeah. Rolling Thunder at Great Adventure, Six Flags Great Adventure.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, that was a huge ride for that park, though, and for the industry in general. So that was big. And then Revolution at Blackpool Pleasure Beach was the first to have, I believe, a vertical loop in Europe. So there's some pretty interesting things that go on with that ride. And with this year, with all the rides that it consists of, it's kind of swept 1984. 40 votes, or 69% of the vote went to 1979, while only 31% of the votes, or 18 votes, went to 1984. So 79 pretty much swept. And it makes sense, and is moving on to the championship. So we now know that 79 is the second best coaster year of all time, at least the second best. We'll see if it's considered the best next week, but it has moved into that 2, or it's in the 2 or 1 spot. We have to figure it out, but we've narrowed it down to that's the first of the 2. And now we're moving on to the next battle, which was 2000 versus 1979. Which surprisingly,
1997.
1997. Excuse me.
You're a little dyslexic there.
I'm dyslexic. Yeah, I'm reading it completely backwards. At least it makes sense because we just did 79. So at least I'm
right.
I'm in the ballpark, right?
There's a whole lot of 9s and 7s going on
Yeah.
here.
Whew. You try it, Bob. You try it. I'm just kidding.
No.
So 79, I mean 97 consisted of some very, very good coasters, and it was surprising to me how it got pretty much demolished by 2000. 79, wow. 97 had Alpengeist at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Chain at Kentucky Kingdom, Superman Escape from Krypton, which was the first coaster to break the 400-foot barrier. Whether or not you want to argue it doesn't really reach it or whatever, it was the
Oh,
first
I
coaster
want
to
to
go.
argue.
Yeah, okay. I know you do. All right, we've had that argument. Go back in previous episodes. You can listen to it.
Yeah, go back a few episodes. You'll find it.
But yes, still it hit the 400 barrier. No other coaster had even gone that high. So if you want to say it doesn't actually reach it, no other coaster had been built that tall. Steel Force at Dorney Park opened up, which is amazing Morgan Hyper coaster, and Zeus at Mount Olympus, which is a world-class wooden coaster up at Mount Olympus in Wisconsin Dells, opened up that year as well. But 2000, I mean, really, you look at this list and it really makes sense. 2000 had Millennium Force. That alone makes sense. It was one of the biggest rides of its time. It broke the 300-foot barrier. It's crazy. It's a crazy ride. Boulder Dash also opened up that year, which is considered one of the best wooden coasters in the world.
It's definitely a well-known coaster.
Yeah, very well-known coaster, and it makes sense. It's a world-class wooden coaster. Dominator at Geauga Lake, or now at King's Dominion, opened up that year, which is the longest floorless coaster in the world. And
technically, it was Batman Night Flight back then.
Yeah, it was Batman Night Flight back then. I'm still calling it Dominator because that's what I've always known it as. But yes, that opened up.
I first wrote it as Batman, and it was better over the lake.
I'm sure.
Just
yeah, I'm sure parking lot setting isn't too charming. Steel Dragon 2000 opened up that year as well, which is
that's one of my bucket lists.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge ride right there. Whether or not you want to say the ride experience itself is that great, which I've heard is debatable. It itself is it's a great coaster. It broke so many
it's
records.
Morgan, and it has a B&M train. I mean,
I've heard some mixed reviews on it. Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England opened that year, so I mean that's a pretty big one. And then the Legend at Holiday World opened up that year. So there were some good coasters.
That's a great coaster.
But you see, the thing is with this is that this is a great. I actually am so happy it turned out this way because we have 2000, which consists of great rides and a little bit of historical significance with Millennium Force. Yeah, you can argue. I don't know how historically significant. You can argue it did some things for the industry, but I don't know if you can argue it is like a huge historical because it really didn't happen that long ago.
I think it kept alive what Magnum started.
Yes, so in a way it was historically significant, but you basically have a coaster. Everything else on that list is just a good coaster, and that's why we're going, oh yeah. 79 didn't have the best coasters, but it had some of the most historically significant rides ever. So it's historical significance versus the better coaster, so I'm really curious to see if people are going to go for 79 or 2000 with the historical significance being the leeway, or what actually produced the better coasters. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. And I think I'm going to have to make a disclaimer before I actually release the poll to say, hey guys, remember, Wilderness Run was the first Intamin coaster, because a lot of people forget about that. So a lot of people see Wilderness Run in there and they're probably like, why did he conclude that? That's a kiddie coaster. No one cares. But that was Intamin. That is a huge role. The Beast is one of the longest coasters in the world, but it really broke the barrier of, what a coaster could do. So, you really have to take that into consideration. Big Thunder Mountain Road was, it's probably the biggest Disney attraction ever, other than Space Mountain maybe. It's huge.
I think Space Mountain's bigger.
Space Mountain's probably bigger, but Big Thunder Mountain Road is right up there with it. Rolling Thunder at Great Adventure did so many different things. And then, talking about 2000, Millennium Force was big, but everything else was just kind of, is a good ride. Everything else, Legend, Superman, Steel Dragon, Dominator, Boulder Dash, all those rides were kind of, they're good and they're great. They're great rides, but they didn't really do anything in terms of breaking any records or making historical significance, really. So I'm curious to see what ends up winning. That's all up to you guys next week as we get to the championship. It's exciting.
You know what I think's interesting about Millennium Force, and I think this is kind of something that kind of also puts it into perspective. That was one of the last rides that the records were actually sane and meant something.
They were legit.
Yeah, because it seems like since then we've hit so many of these, the first coaster to be built on a full moon that has 3 loops.
On a Thursday night.
Doesn't run on Saturdays.
On a Thursday night.
The records actually meant something back then. Now it's like oh, well, like parks specifically say like, oh, it's the tallest coaster
At our park.
in the county. Like,
Or at our
what? Wait,
park.
what?
It's like we have the
And
tallest fastest coaster at our park. It's like okay, like you broke a
yeah,
record. You broke
and
your
then the
own record.
media is like, oh, it's the tallest coaster, except it's not.
It's the tallest
Because
coaster in this square mileage of the park. Yeah, that's
and they'll go
perpendicular.
on to even mention the coaster that's taller. It's like, what? Do you
Yeah,
do any research?
yeah. So yeah,
But like back then, it was like
it meant something to
300
break the record.
feet. This is a big deal. There's nothing else. Nothing else going on like this. There's nothing else this
Except
long.
a
Nothing else this fast.
little coaster that opened up in 19. What was it? Superman Krypton coaster. Except for that was open. So
Well, yeah, but that goes back to the whole full circuit thing.
yeah, I know. So, but I still think I know people always. That's where I would like. That's where I like to draw the line. Though is yes, 100% Millennium Force was the first full circuit coaster to do that, but how important was that with Superman? Because Superman, had already been built. So it really, I mean, yes, it did. It was huge. I'm not denying that for the industry, but it really had been done with Superman like 3 or 4 years. I think that was 19. What was that? 1997. It had been done. It had been done. So 3 years prior, there had been a coaster built. Even if you say it doesn't go 400 feet tall, it did go 315 at least because the trains always
Yeah,
reach that specific height. So yeah,
but
I
at
know. I've
least
had this
even
debate. I
at
actually
that,
had this debate a long time ago on this channel with someone else about Superman opening up 3 years prior to Millennium Force because they were trying to argue that nothing had ever gone over 300 feet. And I'm like, wait a second. No, that's not true at all. Superman had gone over.
yeah,
So yes, nothing had gone over 300 feet full circuit. But really, when you take that into perspective and see Superman. Because people think Superman hadn't opened yet. And so people kind of misinterpret that as Millennium Force being the first coaster to go over 300 feet. And it really wasn't. So I know it was still important, 100%. It's a great ride. It deserves praise. It was a big step for the industry. It foreshadowed so many great rides to come, like Intimidator 305 and Sky Rush and stuff like that.
but even with that argument, it's still kind of a reasonable argument. It's still a reasonable record, saying that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like,
yes, it's a reasonable record.
know,
I'm not arguing that
it seems like since then it's just been like, well, guys, we can't build anything over 400 feet because we can't afford it. So like, how are we going to market this? It's like, well,
yeah.
Oh, I know.
Mhm.
It's the tallest wooden coaster. Oh wait, no, it's not the tallest wooden. Wait, it's the wooden. Oh, let's do a hybrid just so we can like.
Yeah.
They seem to go through all of these things. It's like,
Yeah, I'm not arguing that the record itself wasn't legit. I'm just arguing that how important was that record in terms of how important when it faces off against 79. People are going to go, well, Millennium Force is the first coaster to go over 300 feet. I'm like, well, no, that's not true actually. So maybe if I clarify that now, people will go, oh yeah, maybe the Beast and Wilderness Run and all that were more important than Millennium Force breaking that 300-foot barrier, which really it didn't do, in the way that people think it does. Not saying it didn't do it, but I'm saying that people for some reason think that it was like the first. I mean, I remember the person that came on was like, no, Magnum was the tallest coaster in the world until Millennium Force opened. And I'm like, that is not true at all. Like, there were coasters way tall. Like 300 feet was a big deal, and it was cool that a full circuit coaster did it. But it had gotten done before that, and there were just coasters that were like 290 and 280 feet tall when that was opening. So, yes, it's important.
And it also Millennium Force didn't hold the record long at all because Still Dragon 2000 took it very shortly,
like
after.
months after.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So just take that into consideration when you guys are voting next week. 100% not trying to be biased and say it's not important at all. If you think it's important, vote for it. But I'm just saying, take that in consideration when you're thinking about the Beast and Wilderness Run.
It was the first intimate elevator lift.
Yes, that's also that maybe
that's a great invention, I think.
Maybe that sways your thoughts some, but again, just don't go into the mindset that Millennium Force was the first coaster to go over 300 feet and there was nothing else close to it, because that's going to definitely sway the opinion to Millennium Force. Because if that was the case, if there had been no other coaster to go over 300 feet, I would say screw 79. Millennium Force, 100%, go for it. Like that's the best year. That broke that was never done before, and no one else had done it, and it hadn't been done, and now it is done with Millennium Force. But that's not the case. So take that into consideration. Vote on what you think is maybe you still think that's important for what it did with the elevator lift and with it still was the first full circuit 300-foot coaster. So maybe that you still feel strongly to vote for that. Then that 100% is up to you. We shall see next week, though, as the championship is coming. It's coming soon, Bob. I cannot believe we're getting to the
Yeah,
championship.
it's
It's
here.
crazy. It's here. This is
It's
it.
here.
We got to get a trophy and everything. I mean, this is crazy.
Wait, trophy? Do I get one?
We're gonna give it to the park. Whatever park. Oh, actually, not a park. This isn't a park. This is gonna be like multiple coasters winning. So we're just gonna have to print out like 80 print out trophies. We're gonna have to make a bunch of trophies.
You have a 3D printer I don't know about?
I have a 3D printer at my school, but I'll have to get that before the coronavirus closes us for 2 weeks. So I'll have to print those out tomorrow. So, yes, thank you guys so much for listening. Next week is championship. Hopefully next week brings some better theme park news than what we had to talk about this week. Hopefully next week we're like, yay, all the parks are staying open, the coronavirus is ending, this is great. I have a feeling that's not what's going to be the case, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what's going to be happening next week. We'll keep you guys up to date on the theme park world. Hopefully by then some theme parks are still open. I have a feeling they will be, but we'll see. Unless this thing gets developed really quickly, I don't know. But if you want to keep up updates with us and what we're going to be doing, follow us on Twitter at @CoasterTalk_pod, or you can follow Bob personally on his Coaster account, Coaster Talk just Coaster Talk Bob, actually. There's no underscore. So Coaster Talk _pod, and then at Coaster Talk Bob. So very close in pronunciation. So remember, Bob Pod. Bob Pod. Bob Pod. And then
Yeah, that's a tongue twister there.
yeah, Bob. Then you can go to Facebook at Coaster Talk Pod, Instagram at Coaster Talk Pod. And if you want to talk to us about any comments, questions, or concerns you have with the show, contact us, coastertalkpodcast.com/contact. If you want to email me personally, if you want to send us any recordings of yourself at a park, or if you have any questions or anything that you want to contact me about, just email me, James at coastertalkpodcast.com, and I'll respond as soon as I can. So that's about it for this episode of Coaster Talk. It's been somewhat of a fun episode. I know we had to talk about some disappointing and sad things, but we kept that somewhat positive. It was fun. So we'll see you guys all next week. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yay. We did it.
All right, everyone on live stream. Hopefully, good news comes before the bad news. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But stay positive, guys, and hopefully this is the extent of the troubles that we have to face. If not,
I think, being realistically, there's more coming.
There's really more coming?
Hmm?
There's really more coming?
Yeah,
Did you not get that pun?
I did.
All right,
I'm
good.
trying to ignore it.
All right, guys. Good luck. Theme parks are waiting, at least for a little bit.
We hope.
Yeah, we hope. We'll see you guys.